matters came to a head between the Khrushchevites on the one hand and those who opposed him. And in the end, to resolve certain matters, a couple of international conferences were held in Moscow in 1957 and 1960. And as a result of 1957, a declaration was adopted, and as a result of 1960 meeting of the international communist and workers' parties, a statement was adopted. And in this declaration and in this statement, the attempt was made by the international communist movement to correct the ideas put forward by Khrushchevite revisionists. And the only way that Khrushchevites then could actually get around it was violating the principles laid down in those two documents, the declaration and the statement of 1960. Not learning anything from what their attacks on Stalin had done, the Khrushchevites went ahead with their reckless activity of splitting the international communist movement. As soon as Khrushchev had delivered his speech in Moscow in February 1956, denouncing Stalin, this was really like a signal to every counter-revolutionary in the Soviet Union itself and in Eastern and Central Europe to rise up against the hated Stalinist dictatorship. And you had the results in Hungary. The Hungarian counter-revolutionary, so beloved of every petty bourgeois and every imperialist, took place in order to overthrow the socialist regime. Undoubtedly, there were plenty of weaknesses within the Communist Party of Hungary, but they were much encouraged by the Khrushchevites. And Khrushchevites were almost willing to capitulate to US imperialism over the question of Hungary. And it's the Albanians and the Chinese who came and said, you can't allow socialist Hungary to slip out of the socialist camp and into the camp of imperialism. The topic of Hungary itself could be discussed on another occasion, what it was. It was not a revolution by the Hungarian people. It was a counter-revolutionary attempt by the Hungarian capitalists, landlords, the clergy in cahoots with imperialism that tried to undo the gains of the Second World War that resulted in the Hungarian working class coming to power. Khrushchev, failing to correct himself on that, in fact went on to intensify his activities to come closer to US imperialism. Khrushchev went to the United Nations, made a speech at the United Nations General Assembly, and then went on to hold, subsequently, a few months later, a meeting with the then President of the United States, President Eisenhower, in Camp David in September 1959. And he praised the goodwill and wisdom of the President, and he talked of the Camp David spirit, which actually Eisenhower himself failed to notice because he didn't think there was any spirit at Camp David. And he then went to say that it was perfectly possible to have world without weapons and armed forces and wars, and it could be ushered in while imperialism continued to rule over greater part of the globe. That universal and complete disarmament could open up a new epoch in the economic development of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. He was to tell the United Nations General Assembly. The Soviet Union leadership was so annoyed with the Chinese for opposing their incorrect line that in 1959, the Soviet government unilaterally abrogated the agreement on new technology concluded in October 1957 between the USSR and China. It was an agreement under which the Soviet Union had agreed to provide China with data on building an atomic bomb. Perfectly normal, you want to help each other to actually make China capable of being able to resist US imperialist blackmail through nuclear weapons. They unilaterally tore down this agreement. And on the eve of Khrushchev's visit to the US, the Soviet news agency TASS, on September the 9th, 1959, in a statement sided with the Indian reactionaries on the question of Sino-Indian border incidents And both these were intended as a down payment to US imperialism to curry favor with it and create the so-called Camp David spirit, which just failed to materialize. Khrushchev's attacks on the CPC at the Third Congress of the Romanian Workers' Party in Budapest 1960 were quite out of the blue, quite unexpected. Here you go to a party congress and you use the rostrum of a fraternal party in order to attack another party, and quite unexpectedly. And the Chinese in that attack are described as madmen wanting to unleash nuclear war. They're accused of being pure nationalists. Why are they nationalists? Because they want to rely on their own resources to build their country, and that they were guilty of picking up the banner of imperialist monopoly capitalism. No abuse was spared as far as the Chinese were concerned. They were even accused of actually employing Trotskyist ways against the Soviet Union. And following that Congress, in July of the same year, the Soviet government recalled all the Soviet experts in China within a month. So not only nuclear cooperation was stopped, all other projects were basically left unfinished. And the Soviet experts were given 1 month within which to return to the Soviet Union. And some of them returned with great regret and with tears in their eyes because they felt no enmity towards China. They wanted to work there.